Hey there, Tigers. My name is Kaitlyn Goslinga, Senior Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at Pacific. This video is going to help you read and understand your financial aid offer notice. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and grab it and follow along. Here's some goals and objectives today. Some things we're going to be covering is we will take a look at that letter from the very top all the way to the bottom. So we're going to talk about scholarships and grants. We'll move on to Pacific's direct costs. And then from there, we'll talk about federal student loans and some other financing options you have. So the goal today is for you to be able to read and understand your own financial aid offer notice. But a couple notes before we get started. Maybe you haven't received your letter yet, or you have no idea what I'm talking about. A couple things. To be able to receive an official financial aid offer notice from Pacific, you do need to file a FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. It is available at the studentaid.gov website. So if you haven't filed it yet, it is not too late to do so. And maybe you filed your FAFSA, but maybe you forgot to add Pacific as one of your schools. No worries, that's a really easy change. You can simply make a correction at the studentaid.gov website on your FAFSA to add Pacific. Our school code, to find us a little bit faster, is 001329. Maybe you were admitted to Pacific through direct admissions with niche. In that case, make sure that your official transcripts are all on file. But from there, let's go ahead and get started. Head to pacific.awardletter.com and log in if you need to download a new copy of your letter. And as always, you can find your financial aid information through the financial aid section of my.pacific. All right, so here's the top of that letter. The very first section is going to detail your scholarship and potential grant eligibility. So the scholarship you see there is going to be the same scholarship that was on your admission notice when you were first admitted. Any additional grant eligibility that you're eligible for as a review of your FAFSA may also be reflected here as well. So for the letter, you're going to see 3 columns. You're going to see a fall column, you'll see a spring column, but for today's purposes, we're going to be focusing on the annual scholarship or loan amount, because the costs that are listed a little bit later on down the letter are annual costs. So that's going to be fall and spring combined. So this example, this student was eligible for President's Scholarship and a Tiger Excellence Award. Please keep in mind that your own financial aid eligibility may look very different. This is just the example that we're using today. So you can see here that is $24,000 for the entire first academic year. From there, the letter is going to break down Pacific's direct costs. Now, when I say direct costs, what do I mean by that? Direct costs are things that you are going to see on a bill from Pacific. So we have tuition and fees listed. That's $58,764 for the first academic year. That's for students that take anywhere between 12 and 18 units per semester for both terms. And along with that are all of the student body fees. So for example, our activity and rec fee, our wellness center fee, our ASUOP fee, all of the costs that allow you to get involved on campus, do fun things, get basic medical care, right? All of those costs are included in this dollar amount. We also have an estimate for room and board, otherwise known as food and housing. So this figure you see here, that $17,706 figure, that is the equivalent to a standard 2-person dorm room. So for example, a space in either Grace Cavell or one of the quad houses, and a 21 meal plan. So that is actually the largest meal plan that Pacific offers. Maybe that meal plan might not be the right fit for you though. If you are maybe not a big breakfast eater, or you plan on maybe heading home some weekends for home-cooked meal, you might want to consider the 19 meal plan or maybe even the 15 meal plan. Those numbers correspond to the buying power that that meal plan gives you. So for example, the 21 meal plan, that is 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So that cost could be subject to change just depending on where you choose to live and or the meal plan you select. But we include probably that highest price that you may see for your first or your second year. But as always, there's other indirect costs that we need to think about, right? These are costs that you might want to plan and budget for, but you're not going to see on a bill. We've got a link there on the offer letter, so you of course can take a look, but those are things like books and supplies, your own miscellaneous and personal costs, right? When you go to college, you still need to buy shampoo and deodorant and toothpaste. Along with that, you may see transportation. So that's maybe your plane ticket home, the holidays if you're an out-of-state student, or that's some gas money to and from campus, or maybe heading to an internship off campus, right? So cost to think about and to plan for, but may not apply to every student, just depending on what your situation is. What we do with this offer letter is we are going to take that direct cost. From there, the letter is going to then subtract all of your grants and scholarships. So that's that first orange bar that you see, right? So we're going to take tuition and housing, subtract out all of your scholarship eligibility. Again, this is based on you living on campus. So we often get the question, well, what if I'm not able to live on campus? What are my options? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But one thing before we move on that I do want to make sure I mention, because this is a really, really common question we get from our students and families. All students need to have adequate health insurance to be on campus. To ensure this, all students over the summer are charged for the school health insurance plan. However, if you have your own health insurance coverage, so students, if you're covered under a parent plan, or maybe if you have a marketplace or a state-based plan, you can complete the health insurance waiver. It's not available quite just yet at this time. It goes online typically June of each academic year. You need to do a waiver each year as well. Fastest way to find that waiver is you're going to type in health insurance at the pacific.edu website. So one thing just to keep in mind, we don't want you to pay for something that you're maybe already paying for. So make sure to do that waiver each summer. From here, the next section of the letter is going to break down your student loan eligibility. Brand new first year students can borrow up to $5,500 in federal loans. Really quickly, a couple fast facts about these loans. You do not need to make any payments on them while you're in school. So with federal loans, you don't need to start repaying until 6 months after graduation. And that's even the case if you move on to graduate school. Part of your loan may be subsidized. So if you look at your letter and you see two different types of loans, one of them is subsidized, meaning it does not accrue any interest while you're in school. If you see an unsubsidized loan, that loan does accrue interest while you're enrolled. However, again, you don't need to make payments on it if you don't want to until 6 months after graduation. What the letter is going to do from here is it's going to then subtract out those loans from that estimated amount owed to Pacific. So it's going to take those direct costs, again, subtract out your grants and scholarships, and then subtract out your student loans. So that way you can take those two orange bars and you can compare whether or not those loans may give you kind of some more flexibility in paying for your costs. You can decide if you want to borrow them. Again, you're not required to borrow any federal loans, but they can be a great resource to give you some more flexibility in paying for college, right? That's kind of a way that you can invest in yourself if you need some more financial assistance. The next part of this letter is going to talk about housing options. So at Pacific, our first and second year students are required to live on campus unless they have an extenuating circumstance that would prevent them from doing so. In that case, there is a petition process with our housing and residential life team. So if you have an extenuating circumstance, and especially if it's a financial one, if you have a financial hardship that would make it difficult for you to live on campus, you can petition that with our residential life team. So there's a link there in the letter to get in touch with their team to go through that process. Please do keep in mind, though, that if you petition and you are approved to live at home, your financial aid notice may be subject to change. So if you are in that scenario, please get in touch with our office and we'd be happy to kind of talk through those variables with you. All right, so the next part of the letter is going to break down other options to give you more flexibility in paying for any remaining amount in one of those orange bars. So the first would be a monthly payment plan. Pacific does offer a payment plan each semester. You can enroll in a 3 or a 5-month plan. So for example, for the fall, that would be payments in August, September, October, and you can add on November and December if you'd like. That process is going to repeat again in the spring, January, February, March, or you can add on April and May. The payment plan is a great option for families that maybe don't want to make one lump sum payment at the start of every term. Of course, you can do that. Or if you're looking for ways to kind of break that balance up, if you've got current earnings that you are putting toward your bill. Another option to consider would be the Federal Parent Plus loan. Now, this loan is for parents of dependent students, and you'll be able to see the maximum amount of that Parent Plus loan that you're eligible to apply for. So when you toggle to that Parent Plus loan box, you'll see that little drop down, and then from there, it'll give you that maximum amount. Now, of course, you don't have to borrow that full amount. You can borrow anything less than that. Sometimes we have families that combine both options. Maybe they want to pay some on a payment plan, but they borrow a Parent Plus loan to bring down that payment plan amount. So you definitely do have some flexibility there. That Federal Parent Plus loan application opens up officially at studentaid.gov on April 15th. The next part of the letter goes over some next steps. So if you're taking a look at it and everything looks great, and you're like, yeah, that all makes sense, the numbers work, we want to encourage you to confirm your attendance. So there's a link there to do that. There are also some steps you can take to accept your financial aid offer, but one thing I want everyone to know, scholarships and grants are automatically accepted for you, so you don't need to manually accept those funds. You only need to accept those federal student loans if you plan on borrowing them. From there, if you are going to borrow your student loans, there's some additional loan requirements. There's a master promissory note, and there is a loan entrance counseling tutorial to complete at studentaid.gov. And then last but not least, some links to forms and documents online if you'd like to take a look there. If you have any questions about this letter, or if you want to discuss those financing options in more detail, we want to encourage you to get in touch with one of our financial aid counselors. We are available in Knowles Hall Monday through Friday on a walk-in basis. Otherwise, you can always give us a call or send us an email 209-946-2421 or financialaid@pacific.edu. Thank you.